Hey, I'm Woody Wyatt, and this is every Bad Religion album ranked from the worst to the best.
It's a bad religion.
Craig Graffin, Brett Gurewitz, the other people. Together, they formed a band in the 80s named Originally forming in a high school in Los Angeles, they quickly developed one of the most instantly recognizable sounds in all of punk. Brett Gurewitz is also famously the founder of Epitaph Records, one of the biggest independent labels in all of rock. As for Bad Religion themselves, they've released 17 albums, and I'm gonna rank them, starting with their second album, Into the Unknown. First off, this thing has never been put on streaming. The only way you can still listen to it is through a pirated version on YouTube. And it's meant to be Bad Religion's prog album. The actual songs probably aren't that bad. They're just ruined by this god-awful prog rock production. This is definitely one of the most dated albums I've ever heard. The synths on this thing genuinely hurt to listen to. But when an album's so bad that even the band themselves like to pretend it doesn't exist, that's the one that's bound to be at the bottom. It's an obvious choice, but it's obvious for a reason.
Wake up the new America.
Then we've got New America, and in my opinion, apart from Into the Unknown, this is the obvious worst album. Everything on this album sounds way too clean. Almost the entire album is filler. This album has some of the band's worst songwriting on it, especially the song I Love My Computer. That song is just...
I love my computer, you're always in the mood. I get so turned on when I turn on you.
I don't even know if I can describe just how bad that song is. So yeah, definitely a low point, and definitely like the worst non-prog album that Bad Religion released.
Look how an angel from that rumble seat. I can start twice and make it all go away.
Next up, we've got The Descent of Man. Now look, is this album as bad as the last two? No, it's just personally not really for me. I'll get into this more later in the video, but this album comes from a period of time where Bad Religion were getting a lot more experimental. And for this album, they took a lot of inspiration from country and kind of mixed that with their sound. And they, in the process, slowed their usual punk sound down quite a lot. And in my opinion, it's just... I can see the appeal, it's just not really something that really interests me. Like, every time I try to listen to this thing, I just kind of get bored. I can respect the ambition, but this is never going to be one of my favourites. Anyway, I haven't really got that much to say about this one, and I've got quite a lot to say about the next three, so moving on. Next up we got No Substance, and this is one of many albums on here which I think are like fun but flawed. Standouts include Hear It, Mediocre Minds, the title track, but overall this album is just kind of a bit too repetitive for me. For a band that often writes songs like they're trying to see just how many long words they can fit into a verse, most of the songs on this album kind of just rely on like a phrase being repeated again and again.
No substance. There's no substance. There's no substance. The hippie killers. The hippie killers. The hippie killers.
You're the man now, dog. You're the man now, dog. You're the man now, dog.
Overall, it's definitely not a bad album, it's just personally not one of my favorites.
I don't need to be a global citizen, 'cause I'm blessed by nationality.
Next up, we've got Recipe for Hate. This is definitely one with like a couple really high highs, but the vast majority is just kind of okay. Like, there's no denying, the song American Jesus is one of the best songs. I mean, it's their biggest hit for a reason. I have played that song to death over the years and I'm still not sick of it. However, this was actually one of the last albums I checked out, and I just remember being incredibly disappointed that the rest of the album doesn't really live up to that song. With this album, it kind of feels like they're trying to go in a more radio-friendly, more accessible direction, and in my opinion, they eventually managed to make really good stuff with this kind of sound. Just right now on this album, the songwriting just isn't really there yet. Most of the songs on here just kind of go in one ear and out the other. And everything that's good about this album really does get improved over the next two. This album has one of their biggest songs on it, so maybe more people like it than I do. Shame, because American Jesus is still a great song.
Hey, let's jump around to the renegade sound. of the paranoid style.
Then we've got their most recent album, Age of Unreason. Now, Bad Religion do honestly have some really good, more modern stuff, including the album before this one, True North. I bring this up because if you just heard this album and none of the other more recent ones, you'd think they were like punk rock AC/DC, just releasing another album every few years that's like completely mediocre and doesn't really leave an impact, and then they focus on touring. Because if I'm honest, this is probably the most mediocre album that Bad Religion have ever put out. There's like one or two songs that are memorable, like My Sanity is pretty good. But the vast majority of this album kind of just sounds like what you'd expect from Bad Religion and nothing else. It's by far the most unoriginal album that Bad Religion have ever put out. Not bad by any means, just super unnoteworthy.
I will pretend it's Christmas Day in my atomic.
Remember what I said about Recipe for Hate? Yeah, you can basically copy and paste all of that into here for my thoughts on Generator. Although some of you may be wondering why this album isn't higher, considering it's part of the whole Big Four. I've always thought this album was kind of just okay. I do love the song Atomic Garden, and the title track as well is pretty good. But overall, like with Recipe for Hate, it does feel like they're trying to go for a more radio-friendly, accessible, alternative rock sound. And like with Recipe for Hate, they haven't really managed to do it successfully yet. I don't know, I just think this album's overrated. Like, I can't really imagine someone being like, I'm really in the mood to listen to Bad Religion. What album should I listen to? I know. Generator. I'm sorry, I just don't really get the hype.
I can't see the rationality. The world's not my responsibility.
Then, coming up next, we've got True North. Yes, I finally get to talk about my favourite era of Bad Religion. Period of time, starting at Process of Belief, ending with this album, True North, in my opinion, has the greatest lineup Bad Religion ever had. Containing not one, not two, not three, but actually, yeah, 3 guitarists, and on drums, Brooks Wackerman, the current drummer of Avenged Sevenfold, the son of jazz drummer Chad Wackerman, and in my opinion, the best drummer that Bad Religion has ever had. I know I said I didn't like Descent of Man earlier in the list, but every single album with this lineup, other than that one, I consider at least good. True North is probably the weakest out of these albums, but is still phenomenal. Probably my favourites on here are Fuck You and My Head is Full of Ghosts. It may not be as memorable as some albums further off on this list, but True North is still a great album.
Welcome to the new dark ages. Yeah, I hope you're living right.
Then we've got New Maps from Hell, and hey, it's another one from the Wackerman era. You know, with a name like Brooks Wackerman, you kinda have to be a good drummer, right? Anyway, New Maps from Hell is probably this band's heaviest album. Highlights include New Dark Ages, Dearly Beloved, Grains of Wrath. One of my favourite things about this era is just how much experimentation they did. Bad Religion kind of have a habit of making a lot of their songs sound the same, and on this era, that very much is not the case. Although, if I had to guess which album from this era is the most samey, it would probably be this one. But at this point, I'm mostly just nitpicking. And this album definitely has its own unique identity. I mean, try to imagine a song like Fields of Mars being on, I don't know, The Grey Race. I can't really imagine that. Oh, and speaking of The Grey Race...
This is just a punk rock song, written for the people who can see something's wrong.
Coming up next, we've got The Grey Race. Now, I haven't mentioned this yet, but there was a long period of time, from Recipe for Hate up until New America, where this band was signed to a major label, Atlantic Records. And because Brett Gurewitz was still working on Epitaph, eventually he just left. And while out of these 3 albums that don't have Brett Gurewitz on them, I don't really like the other 2, The Grey Race is phenomenal. And this is still very much a continuation of that more radio-friendly, more accessible sound they were trying to do on Generator and Recipe for Hate. The big difference here, though, is that on this album and the one before, they get it right. Songs like Punk Rock Song and 10 in 2010 could genuinely be huge hits like the songs off Dookie or Enema of the State were for those respective bands. Yet despite the more radio-friendly sound, this album never really feels inauthentic or watered down. It's still the same Bad Religion we've known to love, it's just kind of easier to stomach now. However, there is one big reason why this album isn't any higher, and that's that everything that they did on this album they nailed one album before. And we'll talk about that album in a moment. But first...
Armageddon is hell. Armageddon is hell.
We've got the debut album, How Could Hell Be Any Worse? Now you can very much tell this is the band in their early stages. The album's got like that very like rough around the edges type mixing that was very common in 80s hardcore. Greg kind of sounds like he's singing through his nose. The album doesn't have those signature Bad Religion harmonies. That being said, this might be the most underrated Bad Religion album. This album actually contains some of their catchiest riffs, especially on the songs Fuck Armageddon, This Is Hell, and Part 2. A part of me honestly wishes they did another album that was this rough. Like, as much as I love a lot of their bigger albums, and as much as we're gonna see a lot of them further down this ranking, it would have been cool to have at least one more album that sounds like this. It may not be one of their most essential albums, but it's definitely a fun time nevertheless. And now we're getting into the really good stuff, the personal favourites, the all-time classics, starting with...
You and me have a disease. You affect me. You infect me.
Stranger Than Fiction, the best album that Bad Religion released on Atlantic Records. As much as I love The Grey Race, it doesn't even come close to this album. Infected and 21st Century Digital Boy are songs that I've listened to so much they honestly rival American Jesus. And unlike the two albums that came before it, this album actually has energy. I think some people would probably put this album even higher than I did. It's just these next few albums are all albums that I have listened to death. And the order I put them in honestly just depends on the day. So get ready, because we're about to talk about some really good shit.
Modern man, evolutionary betrayer. Modern man, ecosystem destroyer.
Coming up next, we've got Against the Grain. This is one of the albums that's included in that quote-unquote Big Four. And the thing is about these albums is that there aren't really specific reasons why I like one more than the other. It kind of just depends on which one has the most songs that I like. Against the Grain has some absolutely phenomenal tracks like Modern Man, Flat Earth Society, the original version of 21st Century Digital Boy, which in my opinion is like slightly better. The best way I can describe it is that this album is probably the most aggressive one, while Generator is probably the most like accessible, and No Control and Suffer are the most iconic out of these four. Oh, and speaking of Suffer,
I heard them say that the meek shall reign on earth. Phantasmal myriads will say they call it birth.
some of you guys are probably shocked that I didn't put Suffer like at number 1 or number 2. Truth be told, this was my first ever Bad Religion album, and I'm kind of sick of it at this point. But still, this album is just classic after classic. I mean, come on. The title track, 1,000 More Fools, You Are the Government, Forbidden Beat, so many good songs on this one. Also, this was the follow-up to Into the Unknown, one of very few examples of a band following up their absolute worst album with one of their best and most iconic. Also, this is by far their most influential album, and there's definitely a reason for it. This is one of their best albums. Go listen to it.
He said, I'm bound to be broken. My daddy bet that I'd amount to nothing.
Next up, we've got The Process of Belief. This is probably one of the most varied albums Bad Religion have ever made. From the intense first 3 songs to the more like radio-friendly Broken to the reggae-inspired Sorrow. This is why the Brooks Wackerman era of this band was so good. They didn't stay in one place, they experimented, they delved into new sounds. Like I said, basically all of these albums near the top of the list have been my number 1 at some point. I actually own this album on vinyl. Like, here, look. This is one of 2 albums I own from them. This one I think is a coloured pressing. The other album I've got from them is actually No Control. Sorry, let me try that again. The other album I've got from them is No Control.
You have no control.
Yeah, that one. This is by far my favourite of that quote-unquote Big Four that I keep bringing up. It's probably the album with the most songs that I love. I mean, come on, this album's got You, I Want to Conquer the World, Big Bang, the title track. So many great songs on this one. I feel like I'm repeating myself a lot with these big albums. Like, yeah, they've all got so many good songs on them. They were all extremely influential. So all that there really is to say about No Control is that it's one of their best albums, and it basically did everything that Suffer did, but better. It's so close to being my number 1. There is just one album that I think is better, and that album is...
When the hills of Los Angeles are burning, palm trees are candles in the murder wind.
The Empire Strikes First. easily Bad Religion's most ambitious album. It's got everything from some of their heaviest songs like Let Them Eat War to some of their most melodic like Sinister Rouge and Los Angeles is Burning. It's got more varied instrumentation, yet it doesn't ever feel like too much. There's even like a full-on rap verse on one of the songs. We've seen albums on this list that sound too samey. We've seen albums that took some weird experimental route that didn't really work. This album, in my opinion, is the perfect balance. Again, like with Process of Belief, it's a perfect example of why the Wackerman era was so special. And it is, in my opinion, the best album that Bad Religion have ever made.